250,000 pets. Joining them in their statewide fight against animal cruelty, 10 new agents have been sworn in, making this one of the largest humane law enforcement teams in the United States. In the north of the city, humane law enforcement officer Wayne Smith is heading out to investigate a report of a dog with an embedded collar.
This is definitely an emergency situation in the sense that if the collar goes too deep into the neck, it can cut like a major artery and the dog will bleed to death. This is it right here. All right, here we go.
Trainee agents Fred Carbonara and Derek Schlitter accompany Smith as they head to a backyard. What they find is shocking. The husky has a large raw wound around its neck.
All right, we gotta come out of there.
A frayed rope is cutting into the skin underneath a large lump of infected fluid.
From right here where I stand, the dog is pretty much, it has an open wound on its neck, a very large open wound that's infected. No telling how long this dog got to live. You cannot get no higher point in neglect with an animal than allowing a collar to dig that deep in the neck. That means these people do not come outside to check on this dog. Never.
On the street, Smith is approached by a man.
Hey, you know who dog this is?
Yeah, I live here.
You see what this dog look like?
I understand it. I understand. But at least let us know that you're here to come and say.
I'm taking this dog, and I'm gonna need your ID.
Listen to me. I live in the basement, and the people live upstairs, and nobody's home.
Who owns the dog? Who owns the dog? You own? Who feeds the dog?
Let me talk. Look, man.
Who feeds the dog?
They know he's being fed, but what happened was.
Who feeds it?
Excuse me. Do you want to talk to me?
I'm trying. Look. I can do it like this. I can easily do it like this.
Just remove him, then. We don't have to talk.
No, listen to me. I can call that police officer right there and have whoever owned that dog arrested for neglect.
Well, there's nobody here for him to be arrested.
You came in here saying that you live in this property, right?
I live in this property, and what happened was, it wasn't so much that people was necessarily neglecting him, but they was putting
necessarily neglect, not necessarily.
You're not talking to me, man. If you're not going to talk to me like a man.
Look, I'm gonna tell you. This is what I'm going. I ain't even going to tell you what I'm going to do. I ain't even going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'll show you what I'll do. I'll show you.
The husky is clearly suffering from neglect, but the man is refusing to tell Smith who is responsible for the dog.
Put your hands on the wall.
Smith calls over a patrol policeman to assist him.
You have ID on you? No, I don't. What do I have ID for?
Even if the dog isn't his, under Philadelphia law, the man can be held responsible if the dog is on his property. He is not under arrest, but the policeman wants to restrain him until he agrees to cooperate.
I'll tell you what the situation is, and I'm saying go get it.
Inside the yard, Smith spots a young girl with the husky. He suspects she has the information he needs.
Who owned the dog? The little girl that went back there got emotional once she seen the dog. She informed me that the dog did not belong to the gentleman that's inside the car. It belongs to her mom, actually. And what's going to happen is I'm going to just remove the dog. And once she gets home, I'm going to see if I can contact her, inform her of the situation with this dog and see what kind of excuse she had for letting that dog be like that.
Having identified a possible owner, Smith lets the neighbor go. For now, his investigation will have to wait. His priority is to get the dog to the shelter for urgent medical treatment.
You have your mom call us, you hear?
Removing the dog is going to be difficult. It's in a lot of pain, and with the sore open skin, Smith doesn't want to pull the leash too tight around its neck. The husky's wound is so shocking, Smith doesn't want to waste time. Instead of returning to base for an ambulance, he'll transport the dog to the shelter in the back of his van.
The wound on his neck is terrible. It's clearly infected. It's all fluid underneath his chin there from the infection. All right, I need another leash.
Carbonara helps Smith get a second leash around the husky's body so they can maneuver him without touching his neck. Smith works quickly to minimize any distress.
There you go, good dog. I had an open gash in my neck. I'll be acting the same way, so. A little mean because of the neck, so it's not like a real aggressive dog. It's just a wounded animal. It should be coming in any second now.
On the other side of the city, Pennsylvania SPCA rescue drivers Mike Mansfield and Brian Mann are responding to another emergency. A puppy has fallen down a heating vent inside a home in southwest Philadelphia.
We got a call just a few minutes ago of a puppy that was stuck behind the wall, and he's dropped down about 6 foot. Talking to the lady, she was pretty upset and keeps calling me saying, when you coming, when you coming? I told her, we're on the way, we're on the way.
You're right around here, right?
The puppy is only 3 weeks old.
Down right there.
From inside the vent, Mike can hear him crying for help.
It looks like it's right at the bend before he hits the basement there. I'm gonna just go down the cellar and see if I can see it.
The puppy is out of reach. The only way to get to it is to dismantle the pipe that leads to the vent.
I believe he's right in here. What I'm gonna do is move a bunch of this stuff out and try to open that up right there.
Having fallen 6 feet, the puppy could be seriously hurt. Mike and Brian work quickly to open the entrance to the vent where the puppy is lodged.
Oh yeah, this is backed up. Come on, buddy. It's a real narrow turn. I can hear him, he's a lot closer now. It's just the turn is so narrow in the duct. It feels like it's actually squeezed shut. And he's really up and down.
As Mike reaches inside, he discovers the puppy is not the only thing that has fallen down the vent.
Look at this coming out. This stuff like this is blocking the pipe. There's all kinds of kids' toys in the ductwork. Bottles, brushes, you got brush, cans, look at this. All in the pipe. Records, sofa. Yeah, we got him.
After 3 hours in the vent, the little puppy is pulled free.
We got him.
Although dirty and a bit stunned, he's alive and in one piece. Owner Crystal Burrell is delighted.
Say thank you, say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
The puppy is quickly reunited with his mom for a much-needed cleanup.
One way or another, we were going to get it out. We weren't leaving until we got it out. It's just how much damage and how much pain that we were going to have to cause the puppy. So she's looking for milk right now. She's hungry.
Thanks to Mike and Brian, the emergency is over, and the puppy is safely back with his family in time for supper.
It's like he didn't miss a beat. Look, he's right back in there.
It's turning out to be a busy day for the Pennsylvania SPCA Humane Law Enforcement Team. Just a few miles away, Officer Leonard Knox is on the road.
We're heading to South Philly for a call of 2 dogs that are left in the yard. We have a heat wave today. It's rather hot in the 90s, and we're expecting a bad storm from the tailwind of a hurricane. So that's not going to be good.
With bad weather on the way, Knox wants to check that the 2 dogs have adequate shelter.
Okay, this should be it.
Knox can hear the dogs, but from the alley, it's hard to see the condition they're in.
Hey, so it's supposed to be abandoned. Looks like someone lives here. I can see. I'm going around the front. Plenty of mail in the door.
The house seems to have been abandoned.
We're going to go back through here and take a better look since no one's answering and that mail's piling that door.
The 2 dogs are confined to the backyard with nowhere to shelter from the sun or protect them from the storm that is due to hit the city. Knox is concerned.
The terrier, it's hard to tell because of his hair, but the small pit bull here, he's underweight. He should be much larger. Yeah, okay. Yeah. No food, but there is water.
The dogs are skinny, but not in imminent danger of death. So by law, Knox has to give their owners a chance to respond before he removes them.
I'm gonna leave a notice of investigation about I'll put it on there about the abandonment. That's why we're here. The dog said to be abandoned. Put on there no shelter, and they can also clean the yard. We want them to notify us, right? Make some kind of contact, tell us what's going on.
The owners have one chance to get in touch, or Knox will be back. At the Pennsylvania SPCA, Officer Wayne Smith has brought the injured husky to Dr. Rachel Lee for help. He has to be sedated so Lee can start to treat the large wound caused by a makeshift collar that's become embedded in his neck.
This is unfortunately a string, so it's basically like it's just sawing its way right through. This has been going on for quite a while. That's it. It looks like it was attached to his collar. You can see how tiny his collar was. This is a puppy collar. There's no way you'd put a collar this size on a dog this size. And my guess is that when the collar got too small, they just put the rope around his neck. But he probably wasn't full grown at that point yet either.
Veterinary technician Angela Messer shaves the area around the wound as Smith takes photographs that may be used as evidence. It's a clear case of animal cruelty, and the dog is lucky to be alive. But he's still not out of the woods. The infection could cause fatal blood poisoning.
Septicemia is the biggest imminent problem. This is a really infected wound. It's very deep. This is an interesting case because he actually has exposed tendon on the front of his neck. Probably only would have been a week or two before he would have run into some serious problems, though. You know, rope is unfortunately really, really narrow of all the types of collars you can put on, so it just saws away through the neck. This was close to all the way through.
It's heartbreaking, and to make matters worse, the dog's injuries were easily avoidable.
Unfortunately, I see a lot of these, and it's really not rocket science. Like, when you get a puppy, when it grows, its neck gets bigger. That would be like, you know, when you're a child, your parents buy you a pair of shoes, and those are the only shoes you get your whole life. Too bad. Too bad when your feet grow bigger than that, you still have to wear them. This was probably going on for weeks. Even if you had put this rope on as tight as humanly possible, it's not possible for this to have happened overnight. Hopefully he'll be a lot happier now that it's off. It's not irritating his wound anymore. The string is not rubbing in the open wound anymore, and hopefully this will start to heal. And as soon as we get the infection under control, we will go ahead and try to close this. Give me your buddy. We'll go ahead and start him on antibiotics, and every day, and then we'll go ahead and tomorrow, unfortunately, he will probably have to be sedated for his bandage changes every day, at least for the first couple of days, until this starts to heal or he decides that he likes it.
On the road, the Humane Law Enforcement team are heading out to serve a search warrant in North Philadelphia. While responding to another call, one of the officers spotted some roosters in an abandoned property they suspect are being trained and used to fight. For the last 3 hours, trainee agents Juan Martinez and Fred Carbonara have been keeping watch behind the house where the birds are being kept, while they wait for their teammates to arrive with the warrant. Across the alleyway is a shed containing more birds. Martinez was with Officer Darlene Souza when they first discovered the roosters.
When we first got here to the property, we saw a guy cleaning the back of this property where we first saw the roosters, and we asked him, "What are you doing there? Can you come towards us?" And he immediately just said, I'm only working here." And he left. He started running out the property. We don't know where he went.
With the man behaving suspiciously, the officers want to question him again. They've tracked down his home address on the same street where the roosters are being kept. At the front of the house, Officer Darlene Souza and Director of Law Enforcement George Bengal arrive with the warrant. Bengal wants to question the man who earlier ran from the property.
You were the one that ran from my officer?
He calls Martinez to help translate.
I'm asking who's in charge of it. We need to know who's in charge of the building. He don't want to tell me either.
The men are refusing to cooperate or tell them who is responsible for the birds. So the officers take matters into their own hands. The search warrant gives them the right to enter the property and, if necessary, by force. Bengal and his team enter the abandoned house where the birds are being kept. Rooster fighting is a felony that carries up to 7 years in prison and a maximum $15,000 fine. It soon becomes clear the agents have uncovered a fighting operation. Trainee Kristen Sullivan brings out some rooster fighting paraphernalia.
This stuff was in the back room where the roosters were being held. What we have here is like sparring mitts, syringes, scale for the cockfighting, and different medications that were inside the house.
I have 3 roosters, one of which is dressed for fighting. This guy with the bald chest and belly.
Officer Darlene Souza worked on a previous rooster fighting case at the same property 2 years ago.
When I came down here last time, we found the same thing, roosters that were dressed and all the stuff, the steroids, paraphernalia, all the stuff that they need. It's the same thing.
With the birds removed from the house, Bengal turns his attention to the shed in the alleyway.
There's approximately 12 birds inside of this location, maybe a few more. So we're about to go in there now to see what we can clean this out. This property here actually belongs to the city. So we legally can go in here. Wow. Basically, this is a holding area that's in here. It's really a mess. The place is really filthy. No food, not much water. A lot of these birds look very thin.
Each year in Philadelphia, the Pennsylvania SPCA handles over 90 rooster fighting cases.
There are so many of these bird fighting locations in the city. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. There's just one of many.
Any of them dressed or anything? I heard a rooster coming from in here.
Yeah, that one right there.
Fighting roosters are extremely aggressive, so they have to be kept in separate cages. On the streets, a prize fighter can be worth well over $1,000, and they're extensively trained and prepped.
His breast feathers are moved, his comb and his wattle is removed. Still got his spurs on, but they shaved down a little bit, so they just coming back. But yeah, this is an example of a fighting bird. And they'll fight to the death. They actually remove the feathers so you can actually see the hits. Unfortunately, fighting roosters, you can't put with no other birds unless you can have just this one bird somewhere. But that's very rare. Very rare to have, so unfortunately I have to put them down. One hen, black and red.
But for the hens and chicks, there's hope. Once the team has documented and photographed each bird for evidence, they'll be taken back to the shelter to be rehomed.
All right, how many baby chicks we got over there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
After 5 hours, the last of the birds is loaded onto the ambulance.
23 birds. Hens, roosters, and baby chicks, 23.
From the shed in the abandoned house, the officers have removed a total of 23 birds, as well as paraphernalia. But despite the evidence, they still don't have a suspect. Under Pennsylvania law, being in possession of cockfighting paraphernalia is legal. The officers have to prove someone owns and has been fighting the birds. Accompanied by Philadelphia police, they return to question the men they spoke with earlier, hoping to get a lead.
They're trying to find out who owns the birds. So what's going to happen is George's trying to narrow down who's the actual owner of the property.
But inside, the officers' investigation has hit a dead end. The men still aren't cooperating.
We question them, they don't have no idea, they don't know. Which I'm pretty sure they do, but they're not telling us, and we don't have no proof of anything.
It's not the nicest of neighborhoods. They go flapping their mouth about who owns those birds and get someone locked up. Then they already really don't have a place to live now. You know what I mean? It's possible they could lose their life in telling certain things.
This is just the kind of property that you got to keep your eye on, you know. You just got to keep swinging by every once in a while, see if anything's going on in there.
It's frustrating for the team, but they're determined not to leave without making sure they put an end to this particular cockfighting operation. Before they head back to the shelter, they pay one more visit to the abandoned house. Inside the basement is a makeshift ring used to host the brutal rooster fights.
Watch out now.
Whatever way you can get it done, do it, I guess, you know.
The way we do it is like if you got animal paraphernalia, fighting paraphernalia, we can't take it, we break it. It's illegal to have. Get some, George. There it is, get some.
All right, that's good. I don't think they're going to use it anymore. At least we did get some birds out of there, and we did break up a ring, so they ain't going to do anything tonight in that property.
It's early evening in Philadelphia. Humane law enforcement officer Wayne Smith is heading to the north of the city to meet with the owner of the husky with the embedded collar.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to go out here and get a story. I got citations here, so I'm definitely prepared to give her a citation. Hopefully this is enough to scare the lady to let her know this is not how you're supposed to treat animals.
The embedded makeshift collar had left an infected wound in the husky's neck. After months of neglect, he was only days from death. As they arrive at the property, Smith is confronted by the neighbor who refused to cooperate when Smith first discovered the dog.
Look, I'm trying to tell you, don't do this again, man. Don't do this again.
The dog's owner agrees to let Smith in the house. Inside, Smith cites her for neglect and failure to provide veterinary care.
She thought that she could restrain the dog by having a rope. She wasn't monitoring the dog property. It dug into the neck. But I'm not quite sure if she was more upset that she was being cited for this or that the dog was actually in the condition that it was in. But when I clearly showed the family members, they was all disgusted and they was all upset. So I mean, did I do the right thing by not locking her up? I think I did. I think she got enough right here.
The owner hasn't been arrested, but if found guilty, she may still face jail time. Each of the 2 counts of animal cruelty carry a $750 fine and up to 90 days in jail. It will now be up to the judge to determine her punishment.
Classic Rock 102.9 MGK, the John DeBella Show, raining cats and dogs today. Be prepared for it, folks.
It's a new day, and as fall approaches, the weather has taken a turn for the worse. A heavy rainstorm has just passed through the city. Humane law enforcement officer Leonard Knox is concerned about 2 pets that seem to have been abandoned without shelter.
We're going to South Philly to a house where 2 dogs were in the yard, and the owner hasn't been seen. The dogs been out there for about 3 days, and we're getting heavy rain, so we have a search warrant to remove them.
Knox is being met at the scene by 2 new trainees. It's their first time assisting an officer in a case.
It's good because you know you're going to have more help, but you also hope that they just turn out to be real good people on the job. Everybody can't do this because if you have like more of a bleeding heart, it'll work on you, some of the things that you'll see.
Knox has left notices at the house on a previous visit, but so far, the owners haven't responded. And despite the heavy rain, the dogs are still outside, confined to a backyard that's covered in feces. Trainee Annette Hoffman is worried about their physical condition.
This dog looks thinner than it should be. He's not starving yet, but you can definitely feel the bones. He feels very damp and he needs a nice warm home to warm up here. There's a few containers that looks like they're full of rainwater. I don't see any food at all.
The dogs appear friendly and desperate for attention. Knox is upset to see the pitiful conditions they've been left in.
That's unacceptable to leave dogs in that kind of condition because there's no shelter, the yard's flooding, and the waste out there, along with the flooding of the water, is like a sewage out there now. And just to abandon animals with the weather that we've been having, it's not good at all.
Philadelphia police officer Samuel Allen arrives to assist Knox as he serves the warrant.
Pennsylvania SPCA, we have a search warrant. Can you come to your door, please?
No one is home, but the warrant gives Knox permission to remove the 2 dogs.
Yeah. Okay, I'm coming down there with you. You good? Okay. Okay. Hey! We'll get you out first, okay?
Having worked as volunteer agents for another organization, Hoffman and trainee Sandy Goodrich have experience working with animals, but they are shocked at how thin the small terrier is beneath her coat.
Way too thin. Not acceptable. I can probably...
One hand.
Look at that.
Just about one hand. This dog should
There's like
probably
an
weigh
inch.
about 35 or 40 pounds.
Knox leaves a notice informing the homeowners that he's removed the dogs.
Hopefully they'll get that mail, and if they're interested in the dog at all, some of them just come on up there and try to get the dog back, and I'll cite them then.
All right, you're gonna cooperate.
The 2 dogs are loaded into the ambulance, ready to be taken back to the shelter.
Really sweet dogs. Are quite happy to be going to a warm place. See you later.
Back at the Pennsylvania SPCA, it's 5 days since officers rescued the husky with a severely injured neck.
Good boy, Smuckers. Good boy.
The shelter staff has named him Smuckers. Veterinary technician Angela Messer has brought him to Dr. Rachel Lee for a bandage change and to see how he's doing.
Good boy. He's a good boy, but he's still a little bit nervous. His personality's come out quite a bit. He's acting like a normal husky now, but we are still going to keep sedating him. The wound's still fairly big and uncomfortable. It's not worth putting him through the stress or putting anybody at risk of getting bit while we change his bandage.
Lee has been giving Smuckers regular bandage changes to help clean the infected wound on his neck caused by an embedded collar.
This is actually healing really, really nicely.
The bright red flesh is a sign that the skin is healthy and starting to repair, but is still shocking to see.
It breaks your heart because it's such a simple solution just to remove the collar or whatever is embedding into the neck. And it's a shame because it's a young dog. He's too young to have had to go through what he's going through now to get himself healed so that, he can go on and live a normal life. This is ridiculous. He was near death.
When the wound is completely clear of infection, Lee will be able to operate to sew up the sides of the large gash. Until then, Smuckers will need regular bandage changes.
Right now we change it every day. Probably 3 to 4 days before we go ahead and close this wound.
It may take months for Smuckers to fully recover. Until then, Lee and Messer will do their best to give him the care and attention he's gone without for so long.
Smuckers, you're a good boy.
At the Pennsylvania SPCA, the 2 dogs rescued from a backyard have been brought to the shelter by trainee agents Sandy Goodrich and Annette Hoffman. Left for over 3 days without food or shelter, the dogs were underweight and soaked to the skin. Humane law enforcement officers have been trying to contact their owners, but the house and the dogs seem to have been abandoned. In the shelter's medical center, the black and white pit bull is being examined by Dr. Rachel Lee and veterinary technician Salvador Espiel.
She weighs 25.7 pounds approximately, and she should probably weigh close to 30 pounds easily. That would be normal for a little female pit bull. She's probably a year or 2 old. Her coat quality is kind of poor. That again is probably diet and exposure to the elements. We'll go ahead and deworm her, and then probably all it's going to take is food to put weight back on her. In a couple of weeks, this could have been a very different case. So whoever made the call, way to go, because they probably saved this dog.
Next to be evaluated is the small terrier. Like her playmate, she has a friendly nature, despite her unhappy start in life.
That dog just looks like Chewbacca. So that's what her name will be. Her name will be Chewbacca. We'll call her Chewie. She has a big underbite and she has and she's adorable. And she's got like a little fro going on. It's fantastic. She's got the best face ever. So this one's Wookiee because they go together.
But Lee is concerned about Chewie's physical condition.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you weigh 15 pounds? 17 pounds, we'll call you. That is really light. A dog, I'm surprised. I expected her to be closer to 22 pounds. This isn't probably the skinniest I've ever seen. This is going to be in the top 5, though. I mean, this dog is skinny. I think if we shaved her, you'd be able to see every bony protuberance on her body. You'd be able to, we could have an anatomy lesson, even though she's got skin. So, I mean, this dog is really skinny. She's still up and about and walking around, which bodes well for her, so. That's it.
Chewy and Wookie will be placed on a special diet to help them gain weight, and hopefully, with time and care, they'll be ready to be adopted. At the other side of the shelter, 9 hens and 5 chicks seized 2 days ago from a property in southwest Philly are being loaded up to be sent to a shelter in northern Pennsylvania. Shelter manager Wendy Evans is coordinating the move.
The other shelter that we're going to be sending them to is our Danville shelter. They move a lot of chickens and roosters because they're in a rural community, and it's about 2.5 to 3 hours away. Once they get there, they're released into pens and they can roam around and start digging in dirt and running around freely like they should have been doing all along, instead of being caged up in small pens and small cages just kept for breeding for fighting roosters. For this one right here?
4 of the birds died, and sadly, for the 5 fighting roosters, it's also the end of the road.
Because they are trained to fight, they cannot be released with any other birds or animals. They would attack and fight, so they will have to be euthanized humanely. It's still better for them than being caged in a small cage for the rest of their life. The good thing is that all these hens and chicks, they're going to go to farms, they're going to live out their lives, and they're just going to have a happy time with all the other birds that they're going to be put with.
When humane law enforcement officers uncovered a rooster fighting operation, they found 23 birds in cramped and poor conditions.
No food, not much water. A lot of these birds look very thin.
With no leads or proof of who owned the birds, the case had to be dropped. But not before the agents made certain the rooster ring was destroyed. 2 months later, the hens and chicks have been taken to the Danville Adoption Center, 3 hours northwest of Philadelphia, where they're being looked after by shelter lead Roxanne Griner.
Guys, what are you doing today? These chickens definitely have gotten fatter. They were very thin when they came in. A lot of their feathers were missing, and as you can see, they are definitely more plumped up now, and most of their feathers have come back very nicely. What we're trying to do is find homes for them in our area. It's a rural area, a lot of farms. So we have them on our website, so hoping that someone from our area here in the country will adopt them and give them good homes, being that they came from such a bad environment. Oh, hey guys. Come on, no one's coming out. Being that it's cold right now and it's becoming winter time, we are keeping them in the barn right now. Whoops, there goes one. But when it's nice out, we like them to come outside so they can just roam around. They know where to go. They follow us. In the morning we come in, and they know where the feed's at. Look at her. We want to rehab them and put them back into good homes. And that's what we're here to do.
Good boy.
Back at the Pennsylvania SPCA, it's an important day for the rescued husky named Smuckers. Veterinary technician Angela Messer has brought him to Dr. Lee to have surgery on the large wound on his neck, left by an embedded collar.
It's a big day today?
It's taken 4 weeks for Smucker's neck to heal enough for them to be able to operate.
Right now, we're gonna go ahead and close his wound today, and also castrate him at the same time.
Big day, bud.
This one was incredibly deep and infected when he came in. So we had a really hard time controlling infection, especially because he kept throwing up on all the antibiotics we tried. So, I mean, as you can see already, I mean, the wound is significantly smaller than it was. The wound originally went all the way around his neck. This part of the wound was about this wide and about 2 inches deep.
Smuckers is given a general anesthetic. Like any operation, the surgery carries a risk. And with the wound in an awkward position, there is no guarantee it will be successful.
There's a risk that this whole thing is going to dehiss. So dehiss just means that the repair falls apart. When he wakes up and moves his head, he's actually going to rip all the stitches out. So I'm going to use a fairly large gauge suture material and try to plan for that and hope that it doesn't rip open. So the idea is that we're going to place a drain so that anything that's draining off the wound, which there's a high likelihood that there is something, is going to be able to escape the wound and it won't become an abscess or anything like that.
It's a delicate operation. Lee begins to stitch together the two sides of the wound.
You got to be careful in this area. Obviously, there's a lot of important structures that live in this part of the neck.
Smuckers has been a long road. Yeah. It really has
Hopefully
been.
this is the end. Hopefully he doesn't rip this out and it all heals and we pull the stitches in 2 weeks.
It's so cool though, because he's got such a great personality through all of it.
He does. He turned out to be a really nice dog, which is good.
Smuckers is a special dog.
The Pennsylvania SPCA is a nonprofit organization and relies on public donations to fund operations like this that may save an animal's life.
A lot of work goes into this. It takes a lot of money to fix these animals. I mean, it's what we do, but in real life, this is a very big undertaking to heal a wound this size. One more.
After 20 sutures, Smucker's surgery is over. The drain will remain in place until the stitches are ready to be removed, and the last stage of his recovery can begin. Eight weeks ago, agents rescued two dogs that had been left in a backyard without food or shelter. Officer Leonard Knox had been trying to track down their owners, but his investigations have confirmed that the dogs have been abandoned and the owners have disappeared. But Knox will continue to keep an eye on the property.
If they show up within 2 years, we still can cite them for abandonment. And sometimes people do show up.
Under state law, the dogs have been awarded to the Pennsylvania SPCA. And today, they're being evaluated by Dr. Rachel Lee. Wookie, the black and white pit bull, is making great progress and is in high spirits. But Lee is anxious to check on Chewy, the little terrier who was the most severely underweight.
Holy smokus. 33 pounds. I think she weighed 17 pounds when she got here. You could feel all of her ribs, all of her vertebrae, and now she's a really solid dog. She could probably still put on 2 or 3 pounds, but other than that, she's 33 pounds now. I think she's gained 16 pounds since she got here, and that's pretty much just food, which is nice for her that that's all it took. I mean, it's kind of sad that, you know, despite it all, like, all she needed from her owner was food.
3 weeks later, Chewy was adopted and is now settled into her forever home with her new family. It's been 2 months since Smuckers the Husky was rescued by Pennsylvania SPCA officer Wayne Smith. A makeshift collar had left a deep and near-fatal wound on his neck.
This would be like, you know, when you're a child, your parents buy you a pair of shoes, and those are the only shoes you get your whole life.
His owner has been cited with 2 counts of animal cruelty. If found guilty, she could face up to 90 days in jail. But thanks to the SPCA medical team, Smuckers is making a great recovery. The wound will take a long time to heal fully, so Smuckers is being fostered by Beth Ann and Jeff Phipps until he's ready to be adopted.
Smucks.
As regular foster parents, they have 5 other dogs for Smuckers to play with.
He's actually got more energy than all of them, so what he's doing is he'll play with one, then he'll move on to the next one who wants to play, and that one gets to rest, and then he pleases the next one, and then the next one. So he is got lots of energy. He's really making up for lost time, and they're loving it because they like to play. They just don't have his energy level. Good boy.
He was very skittish at first, but the past couple days he's kind of warmed up to me and kind of likes playing now. He's getting into playing. He's trusting me more now. He seems to be a gentle dog, but likes to play a lot. I would venture to say that he would be great with kids. He's going to be a really good dog.
He's just
has to move.
Yeah. And he's not pacing either because it's just he's moving.
The Phipps will continue to care for Smuckers until the wound on his neck is completely recovered.
It's still scabby. There's still some bulging on there. They're afraid that it's going to reopen if we put a collar on him. So there's no collars on him, no gentle leaders or anything like that. So we use the gentle walker to get him to go from place to place, because he's still shy about walking through a lot of the doorways. Going on to tile surface versus carpet surface is still a little bit nerve-wracking for him. You can still see patches of fur growing back, right? But he wants to follow the pack, so the pack is teaching him where the good places in the house are to be.
It's been a long and difficult journey, but with his unhappy past behind him, Smuckers will soon be ready for his forever home.
He's playful, he's happy, he's not destructive. So yes, I think he's going to be a very happy dog with somebody. There you go.